Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 30th September 2020. In this video, we'll be discussing about these couple of issues. So the first article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled A Demarcation in the Interest of Public Order. Now let us, before going into the details of this article, discuss about the principle of division of powers, separation of powers and the concept of checks and balances. Why is power separated between various organs of the government? It is to ensure the concept of checks and balances, so as to ensure that no single authority will have all the power and no single authority will have to face the entire responsibility of a wrong being committed in the governance. In this article, the context of the article is the Shaheen Bagh protest. What is this Shaheen Bagh protest? So last year, the Parliament has passed the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, which the Shaheen Bagh protesters believed that was discriminatory against a one particular community. So this was a very peaceful protest in Delhi. Now what ensued after this was a sort of a violent upheaval and a violent turn to the entire protest, which led to communal riots in Delhi just before the pandemic has struck us. So these riots result from failure to maintain public order. So the sequence of police action in this restriction space are a case study of how a few public figures can create riots. In this context, we have to understand that there is a clear difference between law and order and public order. Public order means, as reiterated by the Supreme Court themselves, that peaceful protest is very much a part of a democracy to express dissent. But this protest cannot be a matter of violence and cause disruption to public activity. So it is in this context, it is the right of the people to protest peacefully, and here comes the role of district magistrate to ensure that this public display of dissent is going on as per the principle of maintaining the public order. So here the role of district magistrate is very important. But when we are talking about law and order, it is a matter of investigation and an analysis made by the police department. We cannot say that the overlapping roles of public order and law and order should be mingled with each other. There are various issues associated with this concept. On one hand, the district magistrate, which is a part of the executive, is expected to maintain public order, and on the other hand, police department, which is also a part of the executive, is expected to maintain law and order. So there will be political intervention in both these wings of the government within the executive only. So this dual role given to the executive will come into conflict with each other. So it is in this context Supreme Court gave a clear rulings on how to handle this dual roles. The first case that we are talking about is the Ram Manohar Lohia versus State of Bihar case. So the conflict that we are talking about in this case is whether we have to initiate proceedings by the police department as per the criminal and civil laws, that is whether a particular issue is a law and order problem, or whether the proceedings should be taken up by the district magistrate who is supposed to maintain public order. Now what constitutes public order, what constitutes law and order is the biggest confusion. In this case, Supreme Court has clearly laid down that whenever a particular action is affecting the entire community, then it should be taken up as public order. But if a few agitating people cause disturbance in a society and not the entire society as such is affected, then it is a law and order issue, and law and order proceedings should be taken up by the police department against only those few individuals. Again, in Madhu Limaye case, Supreme Court has said that public order and restrictions imposed on the public in general, the district magistrate has a wider scope. So when we are talking about police department, it is only the matter of a few individuals who have disturbed this law and order, and proceedings will be taken up against those individuals only. But if we were to impose restrictions in the name of public order, we will have to consider that the emergency is sudden and the consequences are sufficiently grave to impose this public order restrictions. And the next one is the famous Anuradha Bhasin case, that is important in the context of the internet shutdown in Jammu and Kashmir. So, in this particular case, the court reiterated that we should take up the least restrictive measures to ensure public order. So, in the case of this particular issue, Anuradha Bhasin has filed a case saying that lack of access to internet has been affecting livelihoods, especially considering the fact that many journalists depend on internet these days. So lack of internet is also affecting businesses in this area because a lot of small businesses depended on online orders. So this access to internet is being denied, and this is against democratic rights. This is the main principle, and it is in this context the argument of public order should be seen in the context of the least restrictive measures. So that was the direction given in the Anuradha Bhasin case. Now the next case that we are talking about is the Aldanish Rain case, that is important in the context of NCT. So in this particular case, the High Court directed setting up of an oversight committee, because what happens in Delhi is the law and order issues were frequently taken up by the police department, which is actually the power of a DM. So there needs to be some oversight mechanism to ensure accountability so that the Delhi police don't misuse the power given to them. The Supreme Court is examining whether police officers can act as magistrate in certain cases. Now this decision will be very crucial for the future of NCT's law and order future, and the mechanism through which law and order and public order are differentiated. So we'll have to wait and see what the Supreme Court will come up with in this particular case. So to conclude, if we have any confusion regarding the differentiation between police and public order, we have to look at our constitution. If you take a look at our constitution, the 7th schedule has clearly differentiated between police and public order as two different subjects. And not only this, we also have the National Police Commission, which says that the district magistrate will definitely have larger powers when dealing with public order, and police have a restricted power in the form of maintaining law and order. So to sum up, if you are talking about law and order, proceedings will only be against certain individuals to safeguard the rule of law. But when you are talking about public order, there will be restrictions imposed on the entire community, again to ensure the rule of law. The objective might be same in both the cases, but what we have to remember is the mechanism is different, and this processes and the mechanism is emphasized so much because of a concept called good governance. Ultimately, when we are talking about good governance, the end measure is welfare of all. In this case, when we are talking about the Shaheen Bagh case, it is the right to dissent as rightly recognized by the Supreme Court that is also important. When they are peacefully protesting without causing any harm to the public order, they should be allowed to do so. That is the hallmark of a democracy. Dissent is a safety valve in democracy. That is the gist of this article. The next article for the day is taken from the Live Mint, and it is titled India's Pragmatic Policy in Arms Procurement. So the context of this article and the background, let me explain. India aspires to be a global power. Now, no global power without having the capacity to produce its own arms will become a global power. If you take a look at history, it is the technological prowess that has enabled any power to become a global power, whether it is Russia, whether it is US, or whether it is now in the case of China. Technological prowess in arms has been one of the major differentiating factor. Also, you can take the case of North Korea. The reason why North Korea is infamous is because of its arms. The reason why a lot of countries, despite North Korea being such a despotic power or undemocratic in nature, don't raise their voice or don't intervene in the affairs of North Korea because they don't want to trigger a war which can lead to a catastrophic event of nuclear weapon usage. That is one of the major reason. So like John F. Kennedy has mentioned just before his assassination, sadly in our world, war is the only way to ensure peace. Now, in order to rephrase what he has just said, we can rather say the threat of war or the devastating consequences of the war and the awareness of it is more important to maintain peace. So, this is the context in which we have to look at arms and the defense expenditure as a major component of our aspiration to become a global power. The fact now is India depends significantly on foreign imports. If you take the case of present Rafale deal, that has been marred in various controversies since 2012. This Rafale deal has been one of the most important deals. The fact that we are depending on foreign imports for our so-called tag of being a global military power is paradoxical. So, in order to ensure that, recently the government has reiterated its stance of self-reliance. So, whenever we are talking about improving the capacity of our military, it has two components. So, when I mean military here, we are just talking about the armed forces. That is, it also includes army and navy as well as air force. So, we are talking about armed forces. So, there are two aspects to this. One is the modernization, the other one is indigenous arms production. So, these are the two parallel wings. In this article, we are talking about the arms production angle. Now, again, when we are talking about arms production, there are two aims. One is to become self-reliant in production of arms, and again, there is another aspect to this, that is to make India a hub of exports for defense products. Now, we cannot export all kinds of products, but definitely there is a market and our capacity to export certain kinds of products. So, this is the framework in which we have to understand defense organization. And as far as modernization of armed forces is considered, the committee that came up with a lot of recommendations, 100 to be precise, 100 points were discussed by Shekatkar committee. Now, as far as arms production is considered, the committee that came up with a lot of recommendations is Dhirendra Singh committee. So, based on the recommendations of this committee, we have come up with defense procurement policy in 2016. Now, recently this defense procurement policy has been updated to suit the needs of India's campaign of self-reliant India or Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, let us focus our entire discussion on this particular aspect of defense procurement procedures and the latest updates, and other aspects of the news, other aspects of the modernization Shekatkar committee are beyond the scope of this article. Let us discuss those points somewhere in the future. So, when we are talking about the defense acquisition procedure, it contains policies and procedures for procurement and acquisition from the capital budget of Ministry of Defense. So, this is meant to modernize armed forces as well as Coast Guard also. That is important point that you have to remember for prelims. The important takeaway is Coast Guard is also under the Ministry of Defense. So, the Indian Coast Guard was formally inaugurated in 1978 and operates under the Ministry of Defense. Majorly, it has the responsibility of ensuring the safety and protection of artificial islands, offshore terminals, or everything that is placed in the maritime zone. So, it is entrusted with the enforcement of the Maritime Zones of India Act. Now, what is this maritime zone? For effective command and control, the entire coast of India has been divided into 5 zones. So, these 5 zones, namely Northwest, West, East, and all this, especially Andaman and Nicobar. Please have a look at all these 5 zone names. You can Google about them and learn more about them. Have their headquarters, and this is operated by Coast Guard. So, this is the background of Coast Guard. Now, this DAP is also relevant for Coast Guard. That is the point that I am trying to reiterate, and it is very important from prelims perspective. Now, we already had a defense procurement policy in 2016, and what was the necessity for creating this new DAP now? Well, there were certain issues. First one is lack of transparency. Now, recently, you have seen that CAG has reported that the offset clause, which was a part of the deal, was not carried out by Rafale. So, despite this, we have made the payment. So, this is a breach of contractual obligation. So, this lack of transparency is something to be bothered upon. And this is because of lack of clarity in the procedures. Now, as a part of this DAP, there is another emphasis on improving the ease of doing business with respect to the defense industry, and it is explicitly mentioned that the revised offset guidelines. What is this offset? Basically, as a part of the deal, if a company is willing to transfer the technology to domestic companies so that we also have the ability to produce them, that is called offset. Now, CAG has raised an issue that the company that we're talking about, that is Rafale, has not actually transferred the entire technology needed for domestic production or indigenous production. So that is the main issue. So we have revised this offset clause. Previously, India was considered to be a hub of suppliers for the main technology provider. That was considered to be a very significant business. Now, as a part of this, what we are actually trying to do is give preference to those companies which are actually willing to manufacture the complete defense product in India. And secondly, this will create a lot of jobs. So the reason why we are emphasizing on offset clause is because if we have the kind of technology, we will be able to produce a lot of jobs in our country. But it is obvious that a company which has invested so much on R&D would be willing to give away the technology. So this offset clause has been actually impeding the ability to make contracts with a lot of foreign arm dealers. For example, Rafale has been very reluctant to transfer the technology had it not been for the government intervention from the French side. Now, it is in this context the government has decided that we will have to do away with offset clause when we are talking about government to government dealing. So whenever there is a government company that is willing to invest in our country, even if there is no offset clause because of the sovereign guarantee provided, that company can directly set up a production facility in our country provided it abides by certain rationalization of testing, and also if it can increase the indigenous procurement, that is the suppliers of this manufacturing products should be from India only. The requirement has been increased. This is the indigenous content requirement clause in the defense acquisition procedure that came out yesterday. So in the defense acquisition procedure manual, there are 4 categories of products. First one is buy Indian, IDMM, buy Indian, buy and make Indian, buy global but manufactured in India, and buy global. So these are the various categories.